Hello and welcome to the Vegematic Show. Why did you show up here? Most likely because you had nothing better to do. Well, 90% of the world has nothing better to do these days. Everything's so boring. I tell you, it's been a hell of a week. The hilarity following the news these days and the insanity, the complete breakdown of society that we are witnessing is only going to be accelerating in the future due to the leadership of people that somehow get into these positions of power by being psychopaths and stepping all over people and stabbing them in the back. And the nastiest, the worst, the most brutal always rises to the top. The scum always rises to the top. And there's nothing you can do about it either. You think that you're living in a democracy? And I watch all the political news and everything, and it comes down to, it makes no difference. It's all a show. It's all a game. And right now, the game is being played in such a way as to mask the total collapse of the global economy, which was going to happen with or without the corona beer virus. The you know the thing, just like Joe, you know the thing. Yeah. Speaking of Joe, well, there's been some nasty allegations about Joe being a very, very bad boy, and the Me Too people might even consider slapping his hand. The mainstream media, of course, won't mention it, but Fox News is going to be all over it, I would imagine, because what you have and the excuse for media these days is actually corporate media. It shouldn't be called mainstream. It should be called what it is, corporate media, and it's different factions of the corporate media that are robbing you blind and pretending to have journalistic integrity. But we all know better than that, or at least we should. There's morons everywhere, morons. You just read the comments on YouTube, you'll find millions of morons. The world is going to hell because of all the morons in the world. All the idiots, all the imbeciles, the stupid ones, the dumbest people too stupid to tie their own shoes are running things, and we're worried that things are falling apart and wonder why. And of course we have the wonderful story about Mr. Jeff Bezos, Bozo, whatever. Anyway, this is really interesting, isn't it? He's so charitable that he wants to support the workers that he's been exploiting for the past few years. Exploiting would be a mild term. Perhaps enslaving is more like it. Anyway, he wants to help out his company, to take care of his employees. And in spite of being, I think, one of the wealthiest humans ever to exist, he wants donations. Donations. Here's a donation, Bezos. What a crazy world we're living in. And it's scary too. It's scary for me as a Canadian that for the first time in the history of our border, we have Herr Fuhrer stationing troops along the Canadian border in case any of us Canucks wanted to cross down there and pick up the virus quicker. Why would any Canadian in his right mind want to go to the heart of Mordor, America? It's craziness. It's stupid. But hey, they're there. And I wrote an article a couple of years back in the Revolution Continues blog, which is an excellent small piece of independent journalism out of Toledo, Ohio. And look it up, just The Revolution Continues. And you'll find some writing that you won't find anywhere else. But back to the article in question, I wrote an article that was kind of fanciful at the time, imagining what would happen if Herr Fuhrer decided to invade Canada. But you know, it doesn't seem so fanciful anymore, because it's, you know, it's a new world, folks. It's a disintegrating planet, and anything is possible. Horrendous things are not only possible, but increasingly likely. So buckle up and stay in your houses. Don't go out anywhere, and for God's sakes, don't socialize with anybody. Even on the computer, it's hard to socialize these days, especially if you're on GoogleTube. Yes, GoogleTube, that marvelous democratization of the media that is slowly and surely becoming another arm of the corporate media, because anybody starting a channel now will get 0 views and 0 subscribers. And it's all slowly, you know, back in the day, YouTube used to be all small creators, people from every walk of life posting their videos, and it was a source of creativity, of interest and everything. But now it's all turned into shit, like everything else in this God-forsaken world. Because it's slowly and slowly been like, no, you eliminate the small guys. You don't want people to see that. I was watching the Natural Progressive show the other night, and it was amazing. The only reason that I was able to know that it was on was because she keeps a pretty regular schedule of her shows, and I decided to check in. But it was nowhere in my subscriber feed. So I did the refresh thing a few times. Okay, where is the Natural Progressive live? No, all I get on YouTube these days in my subscriptions, and that is mainstream news, mainstream news, mainstream news. Corona, 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 corona. Be afraid, scared, stay scared. Whether or not the coronavirus ever became a thing, the global economy was set to crash. It was inevitable, because it's all built on a house of cards. And that house of cards is slowly and surely disintegrating into another Great Depression, like the 30s. And like the 30s, after the Depression usually comes a brutal world war. And, you know, since we have leaders, and what is leadership these days? Tell me what leadership really means. I guess Mussolini, Hitler, Stalin, they were all leaders. They led their nations into death and destruction and camps and murder and slaughter and all kinds of lovely things. But they were leaders. So the worst thing we can do is trust so-called leaders. Because really what it is the scum of society, the absolute worst, the greediest, the most vain, the most backstabbing, evil sons of bitches, and daughters of bitches too, and bitches themselves for that matter, and they rise to the top and become leaders. Now, just like the leaders of the past, Stalin, Hitler, etc., the leaders today can do a more effective job because of the technology. I mean, you know, Hitler didn't have like nuclear warfare capability and, vast, incredible spying on every citizen all the time capability like our leaders have today. So our leaders can lead us right down the shitter where the whole world is going. And many people will gladly be led by the nose, like the little sheep that they are. Leaders. We need less leaders. We need less followers. We need more human beings. We need more compassion, more truth. We don't need leaders. And just like in every crisis, you get trillions of dollars pumped into the corporatocracy just because they can. And they hope that you don't notice when you're being put out on the street out of your house because you can't pay the mortgage, you can't pay the rent, and then they'll say, well, it's rugged individualism for us. We all raised ourselves up by the bootstraps, which is a stupid, really stupid term. How could you pull yourself up by bootstraps? If you pull on your bootstraps, you're going to fall flat on your ass. It's obvious. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Bootstraps. Who has bootstraps anymore? What are bootstraps? And what do they contribute to the conversation? Nothing. So I say, don't pull yourself up by your bootstraps because you'll fall on your ass really fast. Pull somebody else up by their bootstraps. No, not by their bootstraps because then they'd fall over. Pull somebody up. Just help somebody. Be compassionate. Dig in that deep wellspring that's somehow hidden in the human heart. Compassion instead of selfishness. Oh no, we can't do that. We can't do that. It's not competitive. It will reward the indolent. We reward the indolent already. The indolent rich class. The wealth. The scumbags. The thieves. The murderers. These are who we idolize in this sick society. Culture. Culture has become ugly. An ugly joke. Music sucks, art sucks, entertainment sucks, it all sucks, the world sucks. And that's on a good day. Politics, pah! What are you going to get with the election this year, if you even have one? The election. Biden versus Trump. Two old, senile imbeciles spitting spittle all over themselves, drooling, and outdoing each other in terms of their moral turpitude. Well, you can say Me Too all you want, but not about Joe. The corporate media makes sure that it's all hush-hush, even though it's out there. It's out there for anybody that wants to look, but a lot of people won't bother looking because it's Joe. It's Joe. It's Dementia Joe. It's the Dementia Joe show versus Herr Fuhrer. And it's all a show anyway because Herr Fuhrer is now going to be your president for life. I guarantee it. And after him, his shithead little spawn, the Ivanka spawn and the other spawns that like to kill endangered species, that's leadership for you. They're going to be in after him. And it's all going to be held together with all that military money being spent. How are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for that? And that's the word they always say when it comes to giving anything, the slightest little crumbs to the actual people who do the work, the actual people who make things run. We can't give you that. How are you going to pay for that? Yeah, sure, we've got $1 trillion a year military that's bloated and rolling in dough, but how are you going to pay for something stupid like healthcare or education? Huh. What a waste of money that is when you could be spending it on developing new and more horrible nuclear weapons. That's a much better use of resources, don't you think? Oh, what a piece of shit we've turned this world into. It amuses me no end to follow political thought on YouTube because they're acting as if politics still had some relevance, still had some meaning, some difference between the oligarchs. It doesn't make any difference anymore because it's all bullshit. Everything, the entire system is being propped up, and it's weak and shaky, and it's being propped up and propped up and propped up, until there's nothing left that they'll be able to prop up. And it will all come tumbling down. Yes, we're headed for a huge depression worldwide, more brutal than the 30s, and we're also heading for World War III, much more brutal and disgusting than World War II ever was. We have the technology. We have the leadership. And of course we have the wonderful story about Mr. Jeff Bezos, Bozo, whatever. Anyway, this is really interesting, isn't it? He's so charitable that he wants to support the workers that he's been exploiting for the past few years. Exploiting would be a mild term. Perhaps enslaving is more like it. Anyway, he wants to help out his company, to take care of his employees. And in spite of being, I think, one of the wealthiest humans ever to exist, he wants donations. Donations. Here's a donation, Bezos. So how much longer before we go into electronic lockdown as well as physical lockdown? Well, you can't have groups talking about anything, and because they might be planning something nefarious. You know, we gotta watch all those people that think in terms of democracy and shit like that. Democracy. What a quaint concept that has become. And what do we manufacture? What do we manufacture as a species? I'll tell you what we manufacture. Death. That's it. Nothing else. We manufacture death for a living. Whether it be the weapons industry or the oil industry or the petrochemical industry or the propaganda industry, it's all in the service of death. Because death is all that humans are good for. And that's how all humans end up. Unfortunately, during their brief existence, they managed to do as much damage as possible, to create as much suffering and destruction as possible, because that's what humans are meant to do. Forget about compassion. Forget about helping others. Forget about kindness. That's just a quaint thing that we should really forget about. No, we should all be nasty. Nasty is the nasty leaders that lead us. Lead us. Where are they leading us? Well, blindly they are leading us over the cliff collectively. That's what leaders do. So, I say no more leaders. I say, let's just all take a deep breath. And what if everybody just said, nah, we're not going to listen to you. Nah, you're not really leading us. We refuse to be led around by the nose to the slaughterhouse. What the hell would they do then? It would be a rough situation for them. If people refuse to be led, chaos, anarchy. Chaos and anarchy don't sound too bad compared to what we're dealing with right now. Will we come out of this lockdown on the other side and everything returns to normal? No. Things will never repeat, never return to normal. Get used to it. Anyway, I just had a few things to get off my chest this week. I didn't feel like doing any fancy productions or anything. Just thought I'd sit here and do a little rant for anybody that cares to listen. We don't have to be this way. We don't have to choose this path. But as long as we're all on this path to destruction, let's try and make each other's journey a little easier on the way. Because ultimately, we're all heading for the grave, so why not make it a little bit less onerous on the journey? I'll see you next week. If I'm still here, if I'm still around, if I'm still allowed to be on the internet that belongs to Google, not you. You didn't pay for it. Your taxes didn't pay for it. No, DARPA didn't pay for it. Google paid for it. So, as the corporatocracy continues to extend its slimy tentacles around all of us and squeeze the life out of us, let's just give a big salute to the elites. Be well, everybody.